All right, hey guys, I think I'm live right now. It says I've been going for about 5 seconds, so I just sat here and looked awkward for a couple of them. That's okay. So I want you to notice first, just because we're not able to meet together doesn't mean we can't have a little bit of fun. So I have set up a Facebook or social media challenge. I want for you all to look at my most recent post on Camp Creek Student Ministry, and you will see a challenge to fit different types of items into one picture, just one picture, all right? And submit that picture to me by midnight tonight. So that means you've got roughly, I'm gonna give you 4.5 hours because for the next little bit you're gonna be on here watching this. So don't do it while we're talking because maybe I should have saved this till later. Anyways, but the challenge is you try to fit as many of those items in one picture as possible. I'll give you points per item so you can see the point value on the picture that I shared. And when you see those points, what you're going to do is if I can see the picture, because I'm going to be the judge. So if I can see the different item in the picture, then I'll give you points per item. So that's the catch. You have to fit all those items into one picture, and I have to be able to see the items. So like you couldn't take like a super zoomed out picture of every single item that's listed. It's going to have to be a nice close up picture, kind of like those old I Spy books. I don't even know if y'all even know what those are. But that used to be a thing when I was in elementary school. So yeah, there's no way y'all know what those are 20 years ago. Wow. All right, so with that being said, that's our challenge for tonight. If you keep up with our social media, I'm actually going to try to keep you guys going. I'm going to try to keep posting little challenges like this every day. Some of them are going to be fun games like the one we have right now that's kind of like a photo scavenger hunt. Some of them are going to be more practical things like, hey, I want to see you send me a picture of the sunrise and the sunset in the same day. Did you actually wake up early this morning to do that, or were you still awake from last night? Teenagers in their sleep, right? So I want y'all to pay attention to our social media page. Stay engaged. I saw a really cool post earlier. We're supposed to be practicing social distancing, but not spiritual distancing. And so that means that I want you guys to stay engaged with our social media page. I'm probably going to stay on top of it a little bit more than I usually do. If you have any questions about any of these things that I post, just send me a text, whatever. Another announcement, I have started a Discord channel. Discord is an app that you can download on your phone, and it's basically just like a giant group text message. You can go into Discord and talk to each other. You can send memes. You can talk about the lesson. You can send prayer requests, and we can set up different. Actually, within one Discord chat, you can set up different groups. So you can set up a meme group, a prayer group, a lesson group, and I'll be doing that as well. So y'all pay attention. Keep up with the social media pages. Keep up with the different news feeds, and I look forward to talking with you guys over the internet. It's so cool. I'm not going to say it's cool that we're having to go through quarantine like this, but it's really cool that we live in an age where just because we're having to experience this social distancing doesn't mean that we can't still experience each other's fellowship and company. So I want y'all to keep up with that. Without further ado, I'd like to jump into our lesson. Now, I know that I have parents watching tonight. I know that I have some students probably watching tonight who haven't been with us for the past couple of months as we've been going over this idea of what is it that we as Christians believe. So tonight is actually kind of a wrap up of everything we've been talking through, and I'm going to close out this idea of, Christians believe that we are made in the image of God, and that one tenet of Christian belief has several implications for us. So let's start here. The big term that you get when you start studying deep theology is imago Dei, the image of God. And so that starts in Genesis 1, where God says, we're going to create male and female, and it says he created them in his image. So we are made in the image of God. So we understand that when we read the Bible, we read it as Americans do, we read it in a very self-centered way. And so we read into that, hey, I was made in the image of God. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, just because I was made in the image of God that also means that everybody else was made in the image of God too. And so God has made all of humanity in his image. And we were talking about this night one, and some students got a little bit confused on this. Well, does that mean God like physically looks like us? Well, in a sense, yes, because Jesus is God, Jesus was man, Jesus came to earth, so Jesus looked like us. But in another sense, that's not exactly what this passage is talking about. When we say that we're made in the image of God, what that means is that we're his image bearers. So Moses wrote Genesis, and when you have this idea of an image bearer, it's somebody who is a representative, basically, of God. We're all made to be representatives of God, but that means we all have God within us too. So we have this image bearer status placed upon us. Now we bring that to the New Testament, and basically what that looks like is we're his children. We are the sons and daughters of God. And so when we see that, we have to remember that a couple of different things come from that. So being made in the image of God implies that we should have a better self-image, that we are basically worth the death of God. God saw us as worth paying the price, the ultimate sacrifice on the cross that we couldn't pay for ourselves. We're worth that, and we need to have that self-worth image of ourselves. But then on top of that, we should have a better mindset toward other people. So this isn't just about us. This is about everyone. All human beings are made in the image of God. So how do we practically live this out? The first thing we can do is we can treat ourselves better. I know that for students specifically, middle school starts to be a stage in life where you start to think little of yourself, because you start to listen to the voices of your peers, and they make fun of you for the things that you're going through. They make fun of you for things like acne, body size, body shape, not enough muscle, too much fat, you're ugly. You know, they do things like that because middle schoolers are brutal. I'm not going to lie. Middle schoolers are absolutely brutal. And so, but when you're in middle school, your mind is that where you can have it molded by your peers, right? And we've all been through that. So what we need to do as Christians, as sons and daughters, as image bearers of God, we need to know that our self-image is not defined by the world. Our self-image and our self-worth is defined by God. That's one of the songs we sing in worship. I am who he says I am. God, I am who you say I am. And so that's really important for us to remember. We have to treat ourselves better. And part of that means that we look at who we are differently, but a part of that means we don't partake in certain things. We talked about this on week 2. There's some things that the world is going to try to tell us that we need to be involved in that we don't have any business being involved in. And of course, the top 3 that you have there, sex, drugs, and alcohol. You have this pressure being put on you as students to engage in these things even as early as middle school. I've worked in the middle schools, and I know that middle schoolers go through that. So you have these pressures being put on you, and you have to understand that you're a child of God, and not that doing those things is wrong. It is absolutely wrong, but that's not why we don't do them. We don't do them because we have a higher view of ourselves than that. God paid a high price for us, and we don't need to rub that in the dirt. We don't need to spit on the sacrifice that he made. So we need to have that high view of us and that high view of what he did for us. So we treat ourselves better. 1 Corinthians 6:19 talks about how our body is a temple, and how we should treat it better, right? But then also it says, this says that we should treat not ourselves better, but each other within the church. We should treat our friends, our neighbors. We should treat everyone better because they also are image bearers. Because especially when we look within the church, I can't tell you how many times in the church I have seen people absolutely get upset with each other over the silliest things and just not talk. I have seen students fighting, fussing over games that were being played. And when that kind of stuff starts happening, you start throwing out the words, the fat, ugly, the words that we're supposed to be hearing from the outside world that we know we don't define ourselves with, we start to use those words ourselves because we're upset with each other. Okay? But Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians, going back to 1 Corinthians, that we're the body of Christ. And when we start to treat each other wrong, we start to tell each other that we don't like each other, or that we don't want to be around each other, or that, hey, you're annoying, so I'm not going to hang out with you, that kind of thing. When we start doing that stuff, we're essentially looking at each other and saying, I don't need you anymore, so you can go away. Okay? And what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 12:21 is that the eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you anymore. That would be ridiculous, right? Because the eye can't reach out of its socket and pick up a book. The eye has to use the hand to pick up the book and read it. All right? So the body of Christ has to function as a whole like that. We can't go against each other. We have to lean on each other. We have to talk to each other, and we have to love each other. We can't just look at each other and say we don't need each other. So part of believing in the image of God is believing that we have to treat each other better. The last thing that I wanted to come to, and this is what we're wrapping up the night with, is that believing in the image of God, believing that all humans are made in the image of God, we believe that we need to seek out the lost. We believe that there are people who are made in the image of God, who have not made the right decisions, who have not decided to follow Christ, who are going to spend an eternity in punishment and torment because they don't know who Jesus is. Now, what God has done is that he has decided to make us his sons and daughters, to reach out to his other sons and daughters so that we can share in communion with one another, so that we can share the gospel with each other, so that we can lean on each other and reach out to each other. So we've got to seek out the lost. In Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46, I'm going to read this parable real quick. If you don't know it, it's the parable of the sheep and the goats, and I feel like most people know this. But it says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from the other, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. And then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or without clothes and give you clothes? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, I assure you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers of mine, you did also for me. And then he will say to those on the left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you didn't take me in. I was naked, and you didn't clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you didn't take care of me. And then they too will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger without clothes or sick or in prison and not help you? And then he will answer them, I assure you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me either. And they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. So that passage, I share that with you just to point out that the people around us matter. You don't know whether or not somebody around you is saved. You don't know whether or not they've made that decision to accept Christ in their heart, or whether they've even heard the gospel. And the best way for you to be a part of the body of Christ, to be that image of God in their lives, is to share with them, to give them something to eat, give them something to drink, give them clothes, give them shelter. Basically be Jesus to them, if that makes sense. Right? So you've got to go out and live the gospel. You've got to seek out opportunities to do that. The last passage that I want to close up is in Romans 10. And Paul is writing to the Romans, and it's 10:14. He says, how can they call on him they have not believed in? And how can they believe without hearing about him? And how can they hear without a preacher? And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who announce the gospel of good things. But all did not obey the gospel, for Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed our message? So faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes through the message about Christ. But I asked, did they not hear? Yes, they did. So Paul here is writing that people can't believe in a gospel message in which they have not heard. Gospel just translates to good news. People can't believe the good news of Jesus if they don't hear it. So it is our job as Christians, as brothers and sisters in Christ, as sons and daughters of God, to go out and reach those who are lost. Paul says that how can they go without being sent? Consider this your sending. Consider the Great Commission you're sending. Jesus has already sent us. He's told us to go and make disciples of all nations. So we need to do that. But because we believe that we are the sons and daughters of God, we are the image bearers of God, we believe that others need to see that in us. And we have to share that with them in order to reach the lost. Guys, I want y'all to know that that's the end of my lesson. But in the midst of all this, I know that some of y'all are scared. Some of y'all are hurting. I want y'all to know that I'm praying for you all. I want y'all to be open and honest with me. Send me text messages. Send me Instagram messages, Facebook messages, however you want to communicate with me. Let me know what you need prayer for. I'm praying for you guys. And then also, don't forget to keep up with our social media pages. Don't forget to keep up with those things that I mentioned earlier. And don't forget to play the game. I've shared that thing. If you don't have that picture and you want to participate, let me know. I'll try to send that out to your parents as well. But yeah, we're going to have this game going. And like I said, I'll close it off at 12 o'clock tonight. Whoever has the game in, your picture, one picture with as many items as you can fit in it that I can see. I have to be able to see them. And I'll get you a $5 gift card to any local restaurant of your choice. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. I hope you have a great evening, and stay tuned. We're going to do this some more. Bye-bye.